A very good evening. You're watching Beyond the Headline with me, Tamanna Inamdar. Last year, a 23-year-old man was arrested with 19 others after the NCB, that is the Narcotics Control Bureau, raided a cruise ship off the coast of Mumbai following a tip-off. The young man was arrested after this raid. Today, 6 people, including this 23-year-old, have found their names dropped from a 6,000-page charge sheet that the agency has filed on the case. The whole nation knows about this young man because his name is Aryan Khan, and he is the son of one of our biggest superstars, Shah Rukh Khan. Today, when the NCB in a press conference has admitted it goofed up, Aryan and his family are surely feeling victorious. But what if it was some other young man whose name was not Khan? Someone who could not afford the biggest lawyers in the country and the spotlight that comes with being famous. I'm sure it must have been difficult for the NCB to eat humble pie today and admit its faults. But the question is that has their credibility now found itself in tatters? We have every angle of the story for you today and a fantastic panel of speakers. I will be speaking in just a few minutes from now with Priyanka Chaturvedi, Shiv Sena leader and member of the Rajya Sabha. I'm also going to be speaking with Aryan Khan's lawyer, Karanjawala, and Sanjay Singh, the DDG of the NCB, to ask where they went wrong. But first, let's take a look at the sequence of events.
A high-profile drug case and Bollywood superstar Shah Rukh Khan's son, Aryan Khan, at the center of the storm. High drama unfolded as the details of the case emerged. But today, Aryan Khan has been given a clean chit after he was not named as an accused in an exhaustive charge sheet filed by the NCB. Here is a timeline of the entire case. The Narcotics Control Bureau raided a Cordelia cruise where they seized a variety of drugs and detained many people, including 23-year-old Aryan Khan. Aryan Khan, along with his friend Arbaz Merchant and Munmun Dhamecha, were among the 20 accused arrested in the case. They were produced in front of the magistrate, then sent to a one-day NCB remand. The drugs agency claimed to have found evidence linking Aryan, Arbaz and Munmun to international drug trafficking. The agency sought further custody and all 3 were sent to further remand till October 7. The NCB sought an extension of remand, but the request was denied. Aryan and the others were sent to a 14-day judicial custody by the court. Aryan and Arbaz were lodged in Arthur Road jail. Aryan's lawyer Satish Manshinde applied for bail. A sessions court in Mumbai rejected the bail applications. The lawyers of all the 3 accused then moved the special NDPS court. The NDPS court asked NCB to file its reply on October 13th. The court heard the arguments from both sides, but the lawyers of Aryan and other accused again sought bail, while the NCB opposed it. The special NDPS court rejected Aryan Khan's bail petition. Their lawyers then moved the Bombay High Court. Shah Rukh Khan visited Arthur Road jail to meet his son Aryan. Arguments continued for 3 days in the Bombay High Court. The NCB opposed the plea, while former Attorney General Mukul Rohatgi, along with others, argued in favor of bail for Aryan Khan. The Bombay High Court granted bail to Aryan Khan, Arbaz Merchant and Munmun Dhamecha. Bail formalities and the necessary paperwork was completed. Shah Rukh Khan's friend and actor Juhi Chawla stood as surety for Aryan before the special court. Aryan Khan was released from jail at 11 o'clock. At Mannat, he was welcomed by fans and supporters. Until November, the case was being investigated by the NCB Mumbai zone. However, in November 2021, the case was taken over by a special investigation team of the NCB in Delhi after lapses emerged in the probe. Sameer Wankhede's term ended. He was initially the officer in charge of the case. Wankhede was often at loggerheads with Maharashtra Minister Nawab Malik owing to his allegedly targeted drugs drive against Bollywood. The SIT sought some more time to file the charge sheet in the case, and the NDPS court granted 60 days. In a critical turn, a key witness of the case, Prabhakar Sail, died of a heart attack. He had claimed that there was a monetary deal inside the NCB to arrest Aryan Khan. Sail was the bodyguard of NCP witness KP Gosavi and alleged that Gosavi discussed a 25 crore payoff deal after Aryan's arrest. Aryan Khan cleared of all charges in the drugs case, over which he spent 22 days in jail.
So many twists and turns to this plot, but some big questions this evening. Has NCB's credibility been completely hit after Aryan has got a clean chit? What about cases that are not in the media spotlight? What about people who don't have famous surnames? Now, don't we need more clarity on the misuse of WhatsApp chats as proof? This is not the first case, and this is not the first celebrity case where WhatsApp chats have been used as the basis of arrests. Investigative agencies themselves have come under the scanner again. Yesterday on the show, we spoke about the Enforcement Directorate and the CBI's cases and why they have been questioned. And should Aryan and others have been arrested if there was flimsy evidence in the first place? The other big question, will NCB officers who targeted Aryan and others face the music? I'm first speaking this evening with Priyanka Chaturvedi. She's a Rajya Sabha Member of Parliament and a leader of the Shiv Sena. Priyanka, great to have you on Beyond the Headline and on the show. Thank you for joining us after what I know has been a long day. First up, the way you see this case, it meant something to fans, of course, of Shah Rukh Khan and Aryan Khan. It meant a lot in political circles because it became a political mud fest, a mudslinging situation. But do you think that the biggest question here is of how the NCB functions?
Actually, NCB's credibility stands unequivocally damaged. And it's not just the NCB. Probably CBI, ED, IT really need to relook at their own institutions and what they, as serving, bureaucrats in these institutions, are compromising with. They're not just compromising with their integrity. They're compromising with the constitutional framework and the responsibility that has been embodied in these bodies, in these central agencies. Are they willing to become political tools of a political party which is at the center? What they have also gone and done is set a very wrong precedent that today the Bharatiya Janata Party might be in power. They have cowed down, bent down to their whims and fancies. Tomorrow it could be another political party misusing these central agencies. So how will they be able to bring the same level of confidence and independence that they seem to be, having earlier? So this is something which NCB would also have to look within. It wasn't just a one-man show, one man trying to be that he's a Singham, using PR agencies and using all kinds of WhatsApp leaks to get media coverage. This was a well-thought-out ecosystem carrying out a conspiracy, not just against Aryan Khan, because he happens to be a celebrity child who's just out after his graduation in US, comes to India to further his career, and he gets arrested. It also targets him because he comes from a celebrity family. And again, since you mentioned about how this was a case which was about a celebrity child, and that's why it got a lot of media eyeballs, you must think about Munmun Damecha, who was amongst those arrested. She found it difficult to gather money to be able to even get bail.
Absolutely. I was coming to you on that point, Priyanka, because this is a test case in so many ways. Perhaps we've seen a quick end to the trauma that all of these people who've today got a clean chit, including Aryan Khan, have suffered because of the fact that he is a celebrity child. What about others? Do we know that other accused, have they been unfairly targeted or not? Will that question not emerge now?
I'm certain there are so many under trials who are waiting for their cases to be heard, for them to be out of jails, who continue to be in jails because they do not have enough money, they do not have enough political support, enough celebrity support, or enough media eyeballs. And that is a point where we all, as concerned citizens of the country, should be talking about that. Do we need to reform and get more accountability and transparency into these systems? Today, Aryan Khan probably has got a clean chit. But what about the man who was gunning for him? The NCB official who was gunning for him and who made a big story out of something which was there was nothing at all. What do we do with his accountability? What do we do with Narcotics Bureau's accountability? So where do we set the accountability and transparency standards? That is for us as citizens and for the central government as well as other governments, other political parties, to rethink how they're using these agencies.
I want to talk about how political the entire issue became, and it once again turned into, an MVA versus the BJP in so many ways. Why do you think it took such a hugely political turn, and where does that story and that angle go today when he's got a clean chit?
A political turn it did take simply because the Bharatiya Janata Party made it a political issue as soon as the arrest happened. They made it about how Maharashtra is full of drugs, how the Hindi film industry and the people working in the Hindi film industry, have this drug issue. Then they may have a drug issue. That is something which can be investigated, which can be highlighted, which can be reformed. But that is something that the governments have to do in a more sensitized manner. A 23-year-old young man goes behind bars with media spotlight. There's no kind of, I would say, justification for the treatment given to him and several others. So I think it became political more because you had the state BJP coming and doing press conferences around it. You had the so-called spokespersons or the indirect spokesperson, but hardcore supporters of the Bharatiya Janata Party, who are celebrities in their own right, making this an issue of how Shah Rukh Khan, his family, his friends, his networks are all druggies. And this is something which became also political because it was Nawab Malikji who was exposing this modern day PR-driven Singham, who was being encouraged and egged by an entire ecosystem which supports the Bharatiya Janata Party. So we need to push that back. And let's not forget, there was a CBI which was also investigating another high-profile suicide case where they're still to file the closure report.
I was going to come. I was going to come to the reference of that in the context of WhatsApp chats, Priyanka ji. Usage of WhatsApp chats. Now, the NCB admitted as much today that WhatsApp chats by themselves are not admissible. What people write in a WhatsApp chat may not be what they're actually doing. And the leakage of WhatsApp chats creates a lot of hype, which may not culminate into anything else. Do you hope now that at least this WhatsApp chat business will see some rationalization?
Actually, I'm glad, Tamanna, you asked me this particular question because your own sister channel was principal was carrying out these leaks of WhatsApp chats. I hope they do some kind of conscience check as to how many lives they can destroy just because they have the mic and the media eyeballs. So perhaps that's a time to relook. And also, of course, because media is carrying out such kind of WhatsApp leaks and those who are leaking it were also getting that media footage, the coverage is something that you need to relook. And perhaps everybody who has played an active role in trying to create sensationalism over news will stand in some kind of a way, looking at their own conscience and figuring out how to move forward.
Yeah, no, I understand you'd want to take that pot shot, Priyanka, but I'm focusing on the investigative agencies because, listen, let's be honest, from the citizens' point of view, what matters that central investigative agencies, government agencies do their job without fear or favor.
Tamanna, I'll just say one thing here.
I'm talking about using, and let's stick to that, please. I request you. I'm talking about using WhatsApp chats as evidence. And that's an important legal point, isn't it?
That's what I was coming to. The country knows it. The legal framework knows it. The investigative agencies know it, that WhatsApp chats do not have a leg to stand upon. They cannot be produced as evidence in court. So every body which are experts in these kind of investigative cases understand that WhatsApp chats do not have a leg to stand upon. Media also knows that. Media uses it to sensationalize. So what NCB has done, NCB has again endorsed something which is already known to common people, to intelligent people, to the Aam Aadmi, to the lawyers, to the legal fraternity, to the investigative agencies. They all know it.
Okay. Now,
so I think it's high time people looked into that.
Okay. Now, as a lawmaker, let me ask you another question. And this is one of the themes of what we're discussing today, right? We talked about how Aryan Khan had the access to the best lawyers and that spotlight, which sometimes harms but also helps when it comes to a case like this. Now, as a lawmaker who's today on this show talked about the plight possibly of other under trials in various cases who may have been falsely implicated, what will you do going ahead to make sure that at least the process is fair?
As far as I am concerned and various lawmakers are concerned, they have been repeatedly talking about how agencies are being misused, how there are several innocents who are behind bars, who haven't even got a fair trial, who do not even have enough funds to put their case forward, put their best defense forward. We have seen umpteen number of cases where people have been behind bars, released after 17 years, after 18 years of having lost major parts of their working life. And that is something which we all need to delve upon. How do we make the judiciary more transparent? How do we make the system run faster, more efficiently, in a more transparent fashion, as well as if anybody has done things out of turn, those particular people are held accountable. Today, we are seeing how bureaucrats, while they are running the country, of course, and there are enough and more good bureaucrats, but there are many who are using those platforms and the power that has been given to them to misuse for their own personal glory or to cater to a political party or to the particular government. So that is something that we will continue to raise, and I have been a vociferous voice. I will continue to do that no innocent should be behind bars, because we have an inefficient system in place, and for which the lawmakers do not look for a redressal and ways to reform it.
Absolutely. The law must be fair, no matter who you are and what your name is. Thank you so much, Priyanka Chaturvedi, for speaking with us. I'm joined now on the show by Sanjaykumar Singh. He's DDG of the NCB, and Aryan N. Karanjawala, senior advocate and Aryan Khan's lawyer. Welcome to both of you, and thank you so much for speaking with us today. Mr. Singh, I have to ask you that, you've had to admit, the NCB today has had to admit on a major goof up. Does it not raise questions on how you conduct investigations in the Bureau?
There were some irregularities that were noticed when this case was initially being investigated, and there were several controversies surrounding the investigation. So it was decided to constitute an SIT, and an SIT was constituted on 6 November 2021, and the SIT was supervised by DDG Ops, that is me, and we conducted investigation in an objective manner, and the touchstone of a principle of proof beyond doubt has been applied, because we were of the view that this act has got provides very stringent punishments, and courts insist on strict compliance of laws, and they insist on concrete evidence. So these were two guiding principles, and so whatever evidence or material that were gathered, they were analyzed.
Sir, but the question today is were those guiding principles applied from day one? Let me come to Mr. Karanjawala on this. Please hold on, Mr. Singh. Let me come to Mr. Karanjawala on this. Mr. Karanjawala, did the NCB, and now it becomes clear, did they completely botch up this case?
So I said before also in several interviews that I've given that I'm not going to get into this, because I really feel that my role should be confined to establishing was there any evidence at all against Aryan Khan. If not, why should he have been implicated at all? I don't really want to get into people's motivations, NCB botched up, make it a slanging this thing, because I don't think that's fair.
Okay. Mr. Singh, you are the one who has to answer today, and we've been asking this question. If after a year you found no case, that there was no possession with these individuals whose names you've left off on the charge sheet, then a larger question is in play on the credibility of the NCB, isn't it?
I can only say about NCB and about the work that SIT did. So we have conducted our investigation totally on merit, and our findings are we have filed our findings and complaint before the court, in which we have said there are only 14 persons who can be prosecuted under NDPS Act.
Right, but what changed is the question. Mr. Karanjawala, you said you only want to restrict yourself to talking about the evidence. So when Aryan Khan secured bail in October last year, the court was quite clear that the evidence produced by the NCB was already looking weak. But the NCB was quite determined to deny him bail. They said he was part of an illegal drug network. From that to no evidence now, what in your view has changed in the last few months?
You'll have to ask them. You'll have to ask them. I mean, as far as we are concerned, nothing changed. We said on day one that he's innocent. We say so today itself. We said on day one this is a case of no evidence. We say so today itself. We say on day one that no drugs were found on him. We say so today itself. We said on day one that they had produced no medical evidence to show that he had ever consumed drugs. We say so today itself. So as far as we are concerned, our stand is what it always was.
You know, Mr. Singh, I asked you about the credibility of this entire organization in question about after the backtracking that you've had to do today. My question to you is, what about other people who aren't as famous as Aryan Khan?
Whenever we have found that some irregularities have been committed and they have come to our notice at the senior level, we have taken corrective action. It's not that this is the first time that we have such action. We have in fact registered a case against our own officer and who was working at a very senior level. So it's not that this is the first case that we have done such, we have taken such action.
Okay, now what about the question of WhatsApp messages as evidence, Mr. Singh? It has become clear that WhatsApp messages cannot be used as evidence, even though in investigation, whoever's accused or being investigated, you ask for their phone, investigative agencies ask for their phone, look at their WhatsApp messages and use them going forward. They're often even leaked. Going forward, will the NCB refrain from this in further cases?
Yes, we have clearly told that in our report filed before the court that first of all, you know, when you are extracting data from a digital device, there are legal procedures laid down in the law. So if you are not following and extracting data, that would be questioned by the court, and strictures also can be passed, because the punishments as laid down in this law are very, very strict. So we have to strictly comply with the procedures that have been laid down in this act. So coming back to your point that the WhatsApp chat can be used as evidence, Honorable Supreme Court has time and again said that WhatsApp chat can at best be used as corroborative evidence. They can never be used as primary piece of evidence.
Yeah. But they were being used to make a lot of claims even in court. Mr. Karanjawala, I want you to come in on this. How credible or reliable are these WhatsApp chats in determining the guilt or innocence of matters like this? The NCB, remember, even relied on the chats to arrive at a conclusion that this was an international drugs racket. Your take on that, sir?
So that itself answers your question. From saying there was an international drug racket based on WhatsApp chats to now say there's no evidence against him whatsoever, that itself answers your question. As far as the legal question on WhatsApp chats are concerned, it's an open debate still, but by and large the preponderance of authority seems to feel that these should not, at least in criminal matters, be relied upon.
Okay, last question to you, Mr. Singh. What are the consequences that the erring officers will face? Because if they have indeed indulged in a conspiracy, will they face the music?
As I said, we have brought on record irregularities that have been noticed by us, and DGNCB has already ordered that these irregularities should be taken into account by the vigilance team that is conducting an inquiry of into the allegations of alleged corruption by some officers, and while giving their finding, their recommendations, that team will definitely take into account these irregularities, and based on their recommendations, action would be initiated against the erring officers.
Well, that's what we'll have to see, what the action finally is after the headlines are done. The celebrity part of the story loses its shine. The big question at the end of the day is the agency held responsible since they've admitted there was a botch-up? We'll take a very short break. I want to thank all of you for joining us on this leg of the debate. But viewers, please stay tuned.